a bird. Don't give us your stink eye. We try our best, and we're successful. Come watch our show. Bet River sponsors. It's time to start. Enjoy the show.
Welcome aboard, everyone, to a new week of Betting Weekly Live. You with Steve Wyss and Jack Wright. How was your weekend? Did you cash your winners? Was it a difficult one? What have you been betting on over the weekend? Some notable winners, Bet Rivers over the weekend, and losers. The Dodgers live, money line, 30,000. The Dodgers have got off to a great start in the World Series. Well done, Shakespeare, so far. We'll be talking about that match later. That was a $30,000 winner. Live, the Bills as well yesterday, $22,500 winner. But were you sitting on winning tickets or losing tickets, Jack, this weekend? How was your weekend?
Not the best weekend this weekend, Steve. As we said, hello to you, by the way, and hi to everyone else. Thanks for dialing in. Yeah, it was a tough one, wasn't it? I think we all had a little bit of a struggle this weekend. Some would say it was probably due because we've been pretty consistent over the start, or very consistent over the start of the season. So, yeah, a couple of rough beats possibly, but that's all part of the game, isn't it? And you roll with the punches. And the great news is, fresh week, we go again. Lots going on this week. Today, the rest of the week, and then we're back around with another full slate over the weekend. So let's go.
Yeah, Saturday wasn't terrible for me, but yesterday, nothing really went my way. It's been a weird 3 or 4 days in soccer. There's been some, I mentioned to you over the weekend, quite a lot of teams underachieving their expected goals. Quite a lot of results which I don't think have been deserved, just across the whole of Europe, really. The goal numbers have been down in certain places when you expect them higher. Someone's mentioned Serie A there. It is, that round was quite difficult to work out. The Inter game, I mean, that was crazy. Who on earth saw that coming? Thanks for the red card in the PSG game, says Diski. Didn't help me, though, that one. I didn't want the red card in that game, personally. But there's always a chance of it. It wasn't a red card, but we're not going to go there. I'll go there another day with that. Tottenham and Lyon killed me. Lyon killed me. The last 2 Lyon games have absolutely killed me, Faddy. The Besiktas game, they should have won 5-0. But to be fair, I thought they were really poor yesterday, Lyon. Don't really know where that came from. Only real positive for them was Mikitadze getting his first 2 goals for the club. Right, so let's have a look today. It's a bit of a limited card across Europe, really. We've got a La Liga game to talk about. We're going to be delving into Scandinavia as well. We've got an English game, MLS as well. What are you betting on today? World Series later, of course, NFL Monday Night Football. Probably the biggest game of the day comes in Spain. Mallorca against Athletic Club. I'd imagine this is probably the game that might have the most handle overall, Jack. I mean, I'm just looking at the latest odds now. This is a 4 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. Mallorca plus 180 now, and Bilbao also the same price. The ties plus 190. A genuine pick'em game. Not often you see that. It's an absolute, the books cannot decide here. Bet Rivers cannot decide who should be favourite. We've got a goal line on the Asian, total around 2, and under 1.5 goals is plus 155 at the time of going live. There's a couple of bets I quite like here, which I'll come to in a minute. But, on a card like tonight, when there's sort of more limited pickings, does your eye naturally wander to the biggest game, Jack, or are you just looking at where's the money? Is this a match where you can make money on?
Yeah, they generally all are, aren't they? Me personally, we obviously did have a little chat, and I think you've got some stronger fancies than I have on this one. It's a bit of a tricky one to call. Very tempting line, isn't it? You get parachuted in from the Premier League lines and most other major league lines, and we're looking at a line here 1.5, 2. It's unheard of. It automatically makes you just want to play the overs blind. But so you dig into the detail, and it becomes a bit of a knot to untie, because you look at Mallorca and you think they're a very tight, stodgy side. They don't give a lot away. In a decent run of form at the moment. Potentially, you would say they're overachieving based on what they're doing last year. Got a chance. Massive incentive for both these sides to win. They're locked together in the table, aren't they? Massive incentive to go and win this tonight. They go 5th. level on points with Atletico Madrid in 4th. So that's a big dangling carrot for one of them to go and do it. So does that make the game more open? Does it make it more tight and cagey because they don't, one goal could potentially win it? As I say, you know those overs backers. This is a bit of a good versus evil or evil versus good. If you look at it, because Mallorca say don't concede many goals, they've got a very, very tight defence. Second best defence in the whole league at this moment in time. 8 goals conceded. And then they're up against the 4th best attack in the league in Bilbao, who also do concede their fair share as well. You look at Mallorca at home, the average games are seeing 1.4 goals per game. Hence why you can see where that line's at, where it's at. Away from home, Bilbao's games average 3.25. So who's going to have the power in this one? That will probably lead you to where your betting's going to go.
I think the 2 statistics which we've got to point out for this game come in the La Liga expected goals against trend, and Mallorca have the best XGA out of any team in La Liga. Any team, 9.64 XGA from 10 fixtures, which is remarkable. And Athletic Club have the 4th best expected goals against. Now that doesn't surprise me. Anyone who watches Athletic Club games, generally they have quite control. There's a lot of controlled nature to it, especially when they're on the ball. They're quite patient. You don't watch Athletic Club games too often and feel frantic, crazy sort of stuff. It's a nice controlled build-up. So I'm struggling to see where the goals come from in the game. So, I mean, there was a few I was looking at. Let's get my notes here, Jack. And Bilbao, by the way, have not been losing at halftime in any La Liga game so far this year, which is an interesting stat, isn't it? So I did look at them. First half tie no bet, but I think probably halftime draw is the way to go here, minus 107. If you want to get a bit more juice out of it, then plus 130 for the 0-0 halftime draw as well. Might be worth going on. I'd imagine it's going to be a very cagey first half where both teams feel each other out. Athletic Club did play on Thursday in the Europa League, but they've had a 4-day break now. They were at home. I don't think it's as much of a factor compared to normal. And, this is, let's be honest, overall, it's a 0-0 contender. Nigel's 0-0 detectors definitely could be beeping later on here. So I think the bet that I've got to advise for the game I'm going to take myself is the halftime draw at minus 107. Under 2 Asian goals. It's a low goal line, minus 122. If 2 goals are exactly scored, then you get a push on the board. It's not often I would go this low, Jack, but it's really
this is not your style, Steve. Pull off that mask. Reveal yourself, Nigel Seeley.
I don't mind it when the goal line is this low and when the stats are so pointing towards a 0-0. It almost feels like you're getting a bit of value because you feel the goal line should be maybe 1.5 or 1.75. So I'm just looking through the comments here. Rick Haley says Mallorca to win, but only a small bet. Winston did like West Ham. He did say that on Friday.
Apologies, Winston.
I know. Yeah,
I got a push. Under 3. I went.
More on Man United later with Eric Ten Hag getting sacked today. William the Conqueror, hello, welcome in. Disky says draw no bet Bilbao. So it's the sort of game where we're going to get people split across the middle. I just don't really see
history for draws in this game, isn't there? They I think, is it 4 of the last 5 they've drawn?
It's certainly like in Mallorca. Anyway. I think the last 3 here at the Son Mosh Stadium in Mallorca, which is apparently a very nice place to watch soccer these days.
I'm sure it is.
The VIP package, they've got this like glass tunnel and stuff where they see the players and all that. So that's well worth a trip one day, perhaps, because we went on tour. So that would be halftime draw under 2 Asian goals, minus 122. Halftime draw would have to be the best bet for the game for me. And let's move on to a bet of yours. Let's do with this double of yours, Jack, because we've got a double. We're involving the Porto game here, AVS Futebol Sad. I've got to be honest, I've never really heard of this team, AVS. I don't know where they're from. I don't know if we've got any AVS fans here, but the mighty Porto come into town and they are short price favourite, minus 375. You can get AVS at about 10-1 actually now. And Porto won 7 out of 8 league games, but how I mean, how do you chase this monster of Sporting at the minute? That's the only game they've lost. I think Porto are quite a good side. They're not as good as Sporting. And the big teams generally eat up the smaller ones in Portugal for breakfast. So it's pretty hard to sort of go beyond Porto. You're going to combine it, right? The first part of your double involves the Porto game. The second part of your double involves a Scandinavian game in Norway, Bodo Glimt against Rosenborg, which we're going to come on in a minute. But first of all, Porto here, go to AVS. Are these odds justifiable?
I think you have to. I was going to say, you kind of briefly touched on it there, is when there's a few leagues like this, isn't there? And you've got the 2 or 3 big names in the league. And generally speaking, when they're not playing each other, you can kind of navigate yourself around those games. We're talking Sporting, we're talking Porto, we're talking Benfica. There's a couple of others that probably, if they're up against, certainly away from home, you'd maybe give it a swerve. And then you can generally use the others to put in a parlay, or I said the odds normally are prohibitive, aren't they? It's tough to take on their own. You're looking at massive handicaps to do that. So generally, away from home, you get a little bit of a price on them. Not one that certainly I'd be looking to take on as a single, but a definite parlay fodder. And that's how I've gone about today's slate. Looking through it, would say that I can't see a way that Bodo or Porto don't win their games, and therefore you put them together. I must admit, at the start of the day when I was putting together for the show today, it was coming up around plus 100. It was just around about that double your money kind of line. It's come in a bit. And just before we went on air, I looked and it's minus 110, but I'd still take it. It feels a little bit of we'd call it a muggy bet to go and do that sort of thing, but I can't see a way past either of these two sides going out and performing. You're obviously going to touch on Bodo and the external situations there in a little while. But for me, when they go to these sides, I was then looking at the AVS's capacity of their stadium is 8,600. So 8,500. So that's going to give you the idea. It's a cliche time, a little bit of a cup tie for them, and a cup final for them, coming up against these big sides in Portugal. So yeah, for me, as you said, Sporting are the only side that have taken points off of Porto in the league this season. And again, we talked about the European fatigue commitments that they've had. Porto have got enough of a break to come into a Monday fixture and be able to go and do enough here to win this game. As they generally do, as we say, against those lesser lights in the league. And you look at AVS, they've actually had a decent start to the season, but they are picking off those sides in the lower half, in that bottom third, and in and around them. They've come up against a couple of the better sides, and they're fallen short. I think that's going to be the case again tonight with Porto.
Yeah, so your double of the day, Porto on the money line, Bodo Glimt on the money line, plays, was it plus 110? Jack, is it? Or plus 100?
Minus 110, unfortunately.
Minus 110, sorry. Yeah, and this is going to be your best bet of the day, right?
Ultimately. It is, yeah. It feels a little bit dirty doing it, to be honest with you. But looking at the others, I've got nothing super strong. So those two, I think, when you pop them together, does create a nice parlay. And I'll take that. I've had a little bit of money on that to sort of add to the kitty, replenish it after a bit of a kick in over the weekend.
Yeah, the Bodo Glimt game, I don't have an official bet in this. I was going to be taking over 3.5 goals, but the weather forecast is very poor in Bodo tonight. We're looking at 0 degrees Celsius, wind chill of about minus 5 degrees Celsius, wind speeds 40 to 50 mile an hour. We could be snow showers. I mean, this is kind of normal in this part of the world this time of year. So, it's not like these guys are, these are hardened players. There are no softies up there. The gloves will be on though. So I can't really go with over 3.5 when the weather's predicted to be that bad. Glimt need the win. They're only 2. Brand have actually put some pressure on them in the table. First time this year, someone's put some significant pressure on them. And, the mighty Rosenborg, some people remember when they were winning, 10, 12 league titles in a row. They're not even in the top 4 best sides in the country now. So, I think Glimt get the job done. Glimt are very good. They've won against Braga in the league, didn't they? So in the Europa League, sorry. So I think that's a good-looking double, really, Jack. Going through the.
I was just going to mention, there's some awesome stuff there regarding the question you asked from Francisco. But I was just saying, the fact they've still got their manager in charge at Bodo astounds me. Like, he's obviously been well regarded over the years. He was talked about coming to England probably half a dozen times. Other top, the bigger league in Europe, he was supposed to be going there, and he's still there at Bodo doing wonders. Has he has he got roots there? Is he like not going to ever leave, or do you think that's just something that's going to happen eventually? But there seems to be rumours all the time.
I just felt like he was Kjetil Knutsen here. We're talking about the Bodo Glimt manager, who's highly regarded. I mean, I'm surprised he's still there. I think his ambition was to get Bodo into the Champions League group stage. It's not happened yet. Right. Whether or not he sticks around, maybe the lure of Manchester United might come his way soon. You never know. I mean, they could do worse. Seriously, they could do worse than having him at least on the shortlist. But yeah, I mean, they're obviously very well coached side, and it's they're unbeaten at home as well. Fantastic, best home record in the Elite Serie in Norway this year. Francesco, AVS, the team used to be called AVS. Right, yeah, AVS, that does ring a bell, actually. I remember seeing them across the board. Starts over again, yeah. And then we are basically talking about if you've had a bad day, you come back the next day. I mean, I think it's just about mentality sometimes betting. If you've had a bad day, depends how you're feeling. You don't have to bet the next day. You can take a day off, whatever. But if you've got an edge, if you feel like you've got an edge with betting, then you've got to go in again, I think, Jack. You can't just not bet because you've had a bad day or whatever. Equally, you can't just think the next day is going to be better for the, by default either. But
you can't chase it. Don't ever chase it. That's obviously rule number one, isn't it? But I think you've got to trust the process, is what I've always said. I always believe in. If you've got a something that's working, just because you've had a bad day or a bad beat or a bad bet, revisit if it's a bad bet. But if, like we chatted about the Villa bet I put up over the weekend, Villa should have won that game quite easily, 2-3-0. I looked at it, revisited it, thought the bet was how I read the game was going to go. Villa dominated, created lots of chances, had a couple of goals disallowed, got in front, lost for the last kick of the game with a goalkeeper up front for a free kick. These things happen. We talked about that 1-0 being a dangerous lead. If you if you're caught hanging on 1-0, all it takes is that to ruin it. But I say, for me, that was the right bet, read the right way, wrong outcome. We move on. Things happen, and say trust the process. If it's working, don't worry too much about it, because I say variance will kick in. And as long as you're taking the right bets ahead of the curve, getting the value on side over the long course, it will come good.
All right, we've got two Swedish games to talk about today. We have got Djurgarden against Vasteras, Malmo against IFK Goteborg. And these matches kick off at 2 p.m. Eastern Time and 10 past 2 Eastern Time. Is the Malmo game. My best bet of the day comes in the Malmo game against Gothenburg here. IFK Gothenburg. And the bet I like is under 3 Asian goals at -129. We could actually get two definitive outcomes in Sweden tonight. Malmo could win the league officially, and Vasteras could be officially relegated. So, but if we look at Malmo's situation, they have such a strong goal difference. A draw would be enough logically for them to win the title, Jack. So,
right.
I'm not sure they go fully hard at this. IFK Gothenburg, they're not out of danger themselves. A draw wouldn't be terrible. Big rivalry here, by the way, between these two sides. And Swedish football has been in the headlines for the wrong reasons in the last week. The Stockholm derby last week had to be replayed on a Monday because of crowd trouble. This match will have crowd trouble. I can guarantee you. It probably won't kick off on time. There will be interruptions because of flares and all that sort of thing. And, if it really got spicy, you could get an interruption for, let's say, half an hour or beyond. So, bear in mind, if you are placing a bet on this game, you might not get a return necessarily, and even until quite late in the day or even tomorrow. I don't know. The Swedish football is not in a great way in terms of the off the field, the crowd sort of aspect. But Gothenburg have been quite an under team since they changed managers in the middle of the season. A lot of low scoring games. Malmo haven't been brilliant recently. They've drawn 4 of their last 6 and generally have been getting by with what I'd call defensive strength. Any win gets them the title. They don't need to hammer them, and they are the better side. But I like under 3 here. I just don't really see how this explodes. They're a canny side, Malmo. If they're ahead by, say, 1 goal with 20 minutes to go, they'll make sure they stay ahead. And remember, the draw's not bad for them either, or for Gothenburg. So I think it's a high goal line. High goal line myself. The other game, Djurgarden Vasteras. Vasteras have the second best expected goals in the league, and they are probably going to get relegated. They are an anomaly of a statistical team. Vasteras, yeah, they've just they've done my dough quite a bit this year, to be honest, Jack. I can't bet on their games now. Like, I'm banned. I banned myself pre-game from. But what they will say about this game, Djurgarden, and by the way, the garden is not rosy in Djurgarden. They sacked their joint managers last week. This is a bit of a must-win game for both. Like, a draw doesn't do anything for either. A draw probably sends Vasteras down, not mathematically, but it realistically will. A draw, Djurgarden need to chase the top three. So it's a bit of an ABBA game, as I say. Winner takes it all. But who's going to win it? I think watch this in running, and you might get a goal line there later. Just going through the comments here. Florence Nightingale, great to see you. You have an obligation to check on me. I've come through the weekend in Czech, Florence. So thank you very much for that. Just moving to the English leagues now. What do we got here? Blackpool Wigan. Jack, talk to me about this one.
Oh, yes. Well, this is an interesting one. Steve Wyss, of course, went into Blackpool after they sacked the manager. Terrible start to the season, and he lit them up. 4 successive wins, and suddenly everything looked amazing, and he was back in vogue. So that was kind of the big name, I guess, that most people will know when we're talking about this particular fixture. It's been put on as the TV game in the UK this week, so an interesting choice. But yeah, it's Blackpool, since that winning those 4 games, have suddenly hit a terrible run. They drew 1, and now they've lost 3 on the spin. Now, there's been some terrible news for Steve Wyss in his personal life. He's been off the touchline for the last couple of games. Assume he'll be missing from this one as well while he sorts all that out. And whether that's had an impact on the team. Steve Agnew, his long-term kind of assistant, or certainly one of his first-team coaches for years and years and years, is the man in charge, and it's not gone well. They got thumped 5-1 in their last game. That was at Peterborough, and this is a tough one. Wigan are struggling down towards the bottom of the table, but they're a side that are very, very tough and hard to break down. So anyone looking to sit down with a pizza and a nice cold beer tonight and watch a thrilling engagement in the English third tier might not be in for that. Unless it completely rips up the form book. But Wigan are a side that have drawn a few recent games 0-0. It's 4 of their last 7 fixtures have ended 0-0. 5 of the last 7 have gone under 2.5 goals. And that includes the last 3 away from home. Say 2 of those 3 have ended 0-0. So you can tell where I'm going with this one. This looks like it could be a bit of a tough battle. Under 2.5 goals is at -113. That's pretty appealing. I'd certainly have a lean as far as that would be my pick, going under or over. I think that's a nice price, actually. If you were looking at maybe a goal scorer, it's a tough one. Kyle Joseph for Blackpool is a decent striker at this level. He scored 6 goals this season already. Their top goal scorer, plus 265. He is with Bet Rivers at this moment in time. Not the favourite in the market, but by far and away the best goal scorer who should be playing tonight. I've got a couple of little areas that I like. Those that like the theme of an ex going back and causing a bit of pain, or against a former side. You got Lee Evans for Blackpool, who used to play for Wigan. He's quite a decent price. He scored once this season. He's plus 480 to get on the score sheet. If you like that narrative, that could well happen. But I kind of like corners in this one. I think Blackpool corners, I could sense Wigan making it very, very tight. As I said, their games have been pretty much that way. And I think Blackpool are going to have to try and break them down, batter. I wouldn't be surprised to see Wigan take a lead in this one, actually, given Blackpool's current form. They're a big price at plus 300. So given how Blackpool have kind of imploded over the last 3 weeks, and if you take that initial spell under Bruce in isolation, they started terribly and they're currently terrible. So that would give Wigan a bit of a chance at plus 300, and obviously the derivatives of it. So you're looking at double chance, tie no bet, that kind of scenario. But I've gone for a plus money pick in this one. I've gone for over 5.5 Blackpool corners. It's plus 100. They're generally pretty decent for corners. They're averaging 6.33 in their home games for corners. This has landed in 4 of their last 5 home games. They've hit 6 or more corners. They hit 11 in one. So they've certainly got it in the locker that they can do that. Under Steve Wyss, so in the current regime, 3 of their 4 home games under him have seen them hit 6 or more corners. So that would be the angle I go, because I just sense it's going to be a tough one. Wigan are going to make it hard. And I think Blackpool are going to be chasing the game to some extent, either to get in front or to get back for large parts of the game. So that becomes a nice little play for me. That would be my bet in that game.
Yeah, I actually quite like the angle of the what's his name again? Who's going back?
Lee Evans.
Lee Evans, yeah.
He is Blackpool, so yeah.
There was a great moment in the Everton game at the weekend for those who watch on UK TV with the commentator, and I love this phrase. It's like, he's gone back to bite the hand that once fed him, and it's kind of the same again, isn't it? Here, it's amazing how often it happens where players do go back. RHM, thoughts on the Galatasaray game? I'm glad you reminded me this, because I think Galatasaray win this. Having seen Besiktas Thursday night. Last night. I think they're awful. I don't rate Besiktas at all. I think they're terrible. Like, Leon should have beaten 5 or 6. They held on heroically, and I just wonder. I know it was Thursday, and you got a few days, but what's left in their tank? Galatasaray are the better team for me, and they usually beat Besiktas. The home team usually wins this fixture, by the way, and for good reason. It's a really big advantage in Turkey.
Galatasaray have got an absolutely superb. We talked about, I think, on the last show we were on together, I think they were playing. It must have been one of the Europa League games or one of the European nights, wasn't it? And but they've got a brilliant lineup, haven't they? Obviously, I've got one of their players quite close to my heart still, Gabby Sarra, and he's going to rip it up. He is ripping it up there. They're loving him out there, and he's going to go on to even bigger and better things, that's for sure. But Osman's out there, isn't he? They've got 2 or 3 other players that are proper decent players, and I was very surprised at this price. When I was putting that Bodo and Porto double together, I thought I'd put Galatasaray in as well, but then I've played Galatasaray as a single myself. So Galatasaray both can score. Galatasaray definitely, for me, again, agreed with you. I think they're value tonight.
Yeah, I remember seeing Besiktas against Ajax as well a few weeks ago. Lost that 4-0. As I say, whenever I've seen them, they don't play well. They completely fluked that win on Thursday. That can happen in soccer. Ming Chung says, Djurgarden win, best bet. Well, statistically, Vasteras find ways to lose games. No doubt about it, Ming. So it wouldn't surprise me if Vasteras outplay them, but somehow find a way to lose.
So Vasteras are your sort of data darlings of Swedish football. They look superb on a spreadsheet, but on grass, they don't quite get there. They cost people money.
On the eye test as well, by the way.
Yeah,
the eye test is good. So they're one of the biggest freakish anomalies I've ever known in soccer. And I don't know. I think a case study needs to be made of them somehow. At the end of the year, it's quite remarkable their underachievement. I think I saw one. It might have been Y Scouts, and this was to be fair, it was about 4 weeks ago. They were actually second in the table on expected points. Second on unexpected points, and they're probably going to finish bottom, which is crazy. Really, I've never known anything like it.
A lot of people bet on data these days. That's going to cost them an absolute fortune. And I know you integrate it into your thinking as well, Steve. So I think that's a prime example of a bit of a Brighton in the Premier League from a year or 2 ago, especially when they were way up there and just not doing it, goals, etc., etc. But I just quickly double checked. Minus 127 Galatasaray tonight. They were, I think that's still well worth a play, isn't it? I think there's money come from what I can see, but.
They're starting to become a bet, aren't they? Well, they are a bet. I think
they are a bet. Yeah. I know they were. I'm sure they were minus 110 earlier today. I got minus 110 when I placed the bet on them. So there's money come for them for certain. But say even more so today, I'm sure of it.
Major League Soccer. Just had a question from RHM, and we have got a graphic for MLS. I think. One of the first times we've managed to have that. We've got since the playoffs. Cincinnati against New York City FC and Seattle Sounders against the Houston Dynamo. And I've watched quite a bit of these games. I'm no expert in MLS. I know a few people who bet on it and have advised me. It comes on at a good time for us out in the UK, for those night owls who are a bit like me sometimes. Not the West Coast games, but Cincinnati, New York City FC. We've got minus 121 here on Cincinnati on the money line. High goal line there, not over 3.5, sort of 3-ish on the Asians. Quite a low goal line in Seattle Sounders, Houston Dynamo for MLS standards. This is not a league that I can really claim to be able to advise anything on, but normally the goals do flow. Best of 3 match series, so there's a little bit of pressure off the teams maybe early on, Jack. We talked a bit off air. You might have a little angle in one of the games. What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, hopefully there's going to be some comments come through from people viewing at this moment in time. Because I'd love to hear some help for us, for help from me and Steve on the MLS, and say we're not super strong on it. We're going off our instincts here and a bit of research. So I think for me, it looks like it's going to be a complete difference between one game to the other. I think that Cincinnati one does look like an overs. Does look like it's got decent history of it. It was 4-2. They met each other earlier in the month. It was 3-2, wasn't it? It was 4-2 here in the Leagues Cup in August. That was the last 2 meetings. So lots of goals there. I did wonder, being there's no advantage of winning 2, 3, 4, is there? There's no aggregate. You mentioned it to us. There's no aggregate on this one. So a win's a win. Is there an incentive to go and win it? And is there an incentive to chase it if you're losing 2-0 when you've got the home tie coming up potentially? So that one, yeah, over 3, I wouldn't probably play it. The other one looks a bit more appealing to me. Under 2.5 goals at -120 in Seattle versus Houston. This is the second and third highest sides in the Western Conference as far as unders are concerned. Only Austin can boast a better unders record than them across the regular season. So this ended 1-0 as recently as September in regular season. 4 of the last 5 heads-to-heads have also gone under 2.5 goals as well. And Seattle seem very, very strong at home, especially against Houston. They've won the last 8 meetings between the two. So I think they're about -130. I can't remember what it was on the graphic now, but under 2.5 would be where I'd look at this one, certainly. And those wanting to go something a bit different, potentially go like on a double chance for the home team and up the unders line if you want to kind of get a price that way round. But that's how I see it. I'd be surprised if Houston pick up a win, and I'd be surprised if there's more than 3 goals in this one.
6:45 Eastern, Cincinnati against New York City. And then Seattle Sounders is 8:50 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. A bit late for me, that one. I've got to be honest. Maybe not you, Jack. I don't know. But yeah, thanks.
I haven't got a school run. Oh, are you on half term this week? No school run for you?
I'm on half term.
Yeah,
it is half term enough. Yeah. There's a question here: can Man United now get the top 4 in the Premier League? I'm guessing there with Ten Hag fired. That is the big soccer news today. Erik Ten Hag has been sacked as a Man United manager. 8-1, we think, was the price on him pre-season, or just before a ball was kicked in the Premier League, around that mark. Anyone here get a ticket on Ten Hag? First manager fired? I want to see those tickets, because he he was certainly a topic for debate. Look, I'm sure you, Nigel, will talk on this on the Premier League show on Thursday. But briefly here, this, are you looking at new manager syndrome? How far can Man United go in terms of league position now, do you think? Was Ten Hag the problem there? Are you looking back in them? Or is it a question of will things hardly really make much difference?
I was looking to go against them this weekend, that's for certain. So that potentially has ripped that plan up. What's going to change? We don't know. At this moment, look, we're going to find out whether it was purely a Ten Hag problem or it's deeper rooted than that. You would think it's deeper rooted from what we've seen over the last period of time. But they'd certainly thrown the towel in, didn't they? Some of that performance have been awful. Saying that, how many chances did they create against West Ham at the weekend? They probably could have been 3 or 4 up in the first half, couldn't they? Not to be, and then end up losing. Van Nistelrooy's in charge as an interim manager until they find a permanent replacement. I think he's favourite to get it full time, which would be a incredible appointment. You go and what a punt that is! Like a manager.
You're talking about a manager who's won the Dutch Cup and the Dutch Super Cup. So let's have some respect for Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Well,
but it would be a big punt. It would be a big punt for Man United.
Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, they've gone down that route, obviously. Like, what was Ten Hag's record like in Eredivisie? And he was like with Ajax, like the stuff he produced in the Champions League we saw. And, if you can compare like for like there. Van Nistelrooy's been there throughout the pre-season. He's come into this as well. He's in Ten Hag's here. He's on the training ground. I can't see it changing. Tough game this weekend. Chelsea, tails up at the moment. they looked a big price, did Chelsea. I'll be interested to see how it goes. If there is this money for a new manager bounce, for people who like that idea, then that makes Chelsea even more appealing. But I will have to see how the market goes. There was something clearly wrong there. It should have been dealt with a lot longer ago. Poor lad really was, well, on his contract. He's not such a poor lad, is he? Especially now his payoffs come after his new contract. But yeah, for me, it's just a mess what they're going to do with it. The players, it's still the same players. There's obviously going to be no change in that. They were his players. They brought in really to try and recreate what he had over in the Netherlands, but never ever looked like paying off. Down in 14th in the league. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what I know is that they're 10-1 with Bet Rivers to finish in the top 4 in the Premier League. They are plus 225 to be a top 6 finishing team, minus 500 for the top 10. Now, I'm not a minus 500 backer too often, but some might load up on that, thinking it's an absolute banker, even with Ten Hag. The bet, I tell you, if I was going to bet them in the futures, though, I'd be looking at 2 things again. I'd be looking at FA Cup, and I'd be looking at Europa League. Plus 650 to win the Europa League. I'd probably rather bet on them to win the Europa League than Spurs, because Man United may bring someone in January. Ruud van Nistelrooy is well liked by the fan base, by the way.
He is
at United. So I can imagine probably Ruud gets it until the end of the season, unless they can, manage to lure a really top candidate mid-season, or they appoint someone like Graham Potter who's not out of work, or Xavi. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't predict this, because the squad is far better than what they've shown. But quite how high they can finish, I don't think top 4. I think that's beyond them. Or even though they're only 7-8 points off it. Top 6 though, possible. You never know. Maybe with a good run. I think we've got to wait and see. We really do have to wait. And
There's
see.
obviously talk about Gareth Southgate, weren't there? And the fact that there was a lot of rumours about the fact that he was the man that identified. That would be how that would go down with a fan base. You talk about Van Nistelrooy being a popular with the fan base. I'm not sure Southgate appointment would light him up, but lots and lots of issues at Man United, and we'll have to see how much of that come down to Ten Hag. And I'm not sure it's enough to get excited about the fact that he's gone. They're suddenly going to become this great team. As I say, they're just shorn of confidence, create chances, not scoring them, find a way to lose games. Look wide open. Whether he's going to completely change the system or not, we'll have to wait and see. But it's not been pretty. Rick certainly fancies Chelsea to take them to the cleaners at the weekend, so that's a bold claim. And see some United fans right in the top 4. Yeah, not a top 4 for me. I'd lay that all day long, fade that all day long, certainly. But top 10, you'd be shocked if they couldn't scrape into the top 10. But top 6, I think, is probably beyond them. I generally do think that.
Yeah, Rick says Chelsea 4-0 there. Man United. I mean, I really was liking the look of Chelsea this weekend, I must say. Now, I not so much because of the new manager thing, but maybe Chelsea are a very well coached side. Just before we finish off, MLB World Series Game 3. The Dodgers, they are 2-0 up. Shakespeare did say that he get on the Dodgers. That was his guarantee. At the minute, they're now minus 455 to win the World Series. So this is the Game 3. Dodgers at the Yankees, minus 141 for the Yankees. LA Dodgers plus 120. What are you betting on, everyone? What's the bet? Are the Yankees going to get back in this series? That's what everyone's presuming. Now, minus 141, the biggest bets are on the Yankees here. 81% of the money and 72% of the tickets. And I'm just looking now at the money line, minus 141. Now, that's going to tempt a few in. I really do think that the Yankees will take quite a lot of money coming into the day. So you've seen a few predictions across the board, also from some of the Bet Rivers contributors saying it might even go all the way to Game 7 if the Yankees can get back in the series. Shakespeare, welcome in. Yeah, minus 455 now on the Dodgers. But as I say, 72% of the money is on the ticket money is on the Yankees today, and 66% on the spread. And we've got a notable I mean, two notable bets here, nearly $20,000 on the Yankees, either money line or -1.5, Jack. So that's where the money's going. For those who like to follow the money, that's where the money is. Yankees 12-1 to win in 6, says Jared Barton. That would be some sort of turnaround to win it before Game 7 from 2 down. But they now have 3 home games in a row, I do believe. So they've got to make the most of it, haven't they? Simple as that. We've got Monday Night Football as well in the NFL. I've not actually got a graphic for this one. We've got the Giants at the Steelers. Huge amount of money on the Steelers in terms of the tickets. 95% of the tickets are on the Steelers. Money line at -265 and 84% on the spread -6. So, as far as the public is aware, that is a massive outcome tonight if the Steelers can deliver. I did hear that the sportsbook made quite a lot of money on the Hail Mary play last night in the Washington game against Chicago. Game looked done, and Chicago looked like we're getting the win, but that cost the public quite a lot. We've got 90% of the money is on the over as well, on the over under 36.5. Giants at Steelers fixture there tonight. So yeah, do tell us what you're betting on Monday Night Football, on the MLB World Series as well. And Jack, you got to remind us of your best bet before we go off.
I will. A couple of things quickly. Did you see the note from Troy there? Nice little piece as far as that one. There we go. That's a nice little bit of info for bettors on the baseball tonight. And also, I did a quick look as well, and the price hasn't moved since the news. I looked at, I was going through obviously the Premier League card ahead of the show to get my initial thoughts, to put my initial shortlist together, compare it to my own prices. Man United and Chelsea both plus 160 last night. They still are right now, so it'll be interesting to see. Put a pin in that, everyone, and you can see where the betting goes on that. But it's plus 160 either or at this moment in time. My best bet, you mentioned, simple one, Bodo and Porto in a win double at parlay at -110.
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins there says Giant Steelers, and here's my cat. He's back. Kit Kat is back on the show. I had a few questions about him the other day. He's a lot better now, thanks those who were offering their concern to him. And he has been just sitting there while I've been doing this show today. Giant Steelers under 36.5, says Anthony Hopkins. Jared says betting the Steelers a big favourite is like betting United right now. The Steelers, off the top of my head, without knowing any specific stats here, they tend to be quite a poor favourite, don't they? I think down the years, like win but don't cover the spread sort of thing. But usually quite good as a dog. But that is without any stats there. And just going back to the comment there, I do want to give a big shout out to the production team behind the scenes. As everyone probably is aware, there's a lot of things come together to bring these shows out, and we've got 2 great producers behind the scenes, Troy and Max. John with the graphics, you know who you are, who've been making Betting Weekly Live what it is, along with all the great guests like yourself, Jack. And this is why we're still going strong in October with Betting Weekly Live. And that's going to be it for today's show. We thank everyone who has joined us live or on demand, the replay. And you've got Dan Roebuck for the next 2 days. I'm off. We've got Will White, professional gambler Will White's going to be on tomorrow. So that's going to be very interesting. And we've got Lewis Jones as well, fresh off a hot Friday for Lewis on the show. But Jack, it was a pleasure as always.
Love these, Steve. I say every time I come on, I absolutely love doing these shows. I love the comments coming through as they do. Lots of little insights. I pick up stuff from it all the time, just reading through bits and pieces there. So adds to my armory. But I enjoy every show I do with you and love these live ones, and long may they continue. So keep the support going. And obviously we hit 6,000 since I was last on subscribers. So that's awesome stuff. And the comments coming through on our shows, I'll say make it all worthwhile, but it's absolutely add to the enjoyment we get from it. So yeah, thanks everyone, and thanks you, Steve.
Not a problem, Jack. We are here live every day, 11 o'clock Eastern time, without fail. No matter what the card is, no matter what's on, we are here for you with Betting Weekly Live. And if you're new, do consider subscribing to the channel. Hitting that like button really does help us. Let us know in the comments what you want from Betting Weekly Live and all that sort of thing. But yeah, 6,000 subscribers now. Massive thanks to all of you for supporting the channel. And take care, and good luck whatever you are betting on today across the world of sport. Do gamble responsibly. I'll see you later in the week, and back tomorrow, Betting Weekly Live with Dan Roebuck and professional gambler Will White. See you around.